The barrel didn't waver. Matteo Ripley had stared down assassins, corrupt politicians, and rival syndicates without flinching. But the 9-year-old girl in the green dress, standing in his marble foyer, her small hands wrapped around a Glock 19 aimed directly at his chest, made something inside him crack. "Why did you save me then?" Ashley Sullivan's voice trembled, but her grip stayed steady. "Without my mom? Why did you leave us?" "Hello, friends. I hope you're doing well today, wherever you're watching from, maybe curled up on your couch, or perhaps hiding from the world like I sometimes do when a story grabs me by the throat. Before we dive deeper into this moment that could shatter everything, I have to ask, have you subscribed to the channel yet? Because what happens next, you're going to want to follow this journey with me. Trust me." The mansion's crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across Ashley's tear-streaked face. Behind Matteo, his security team had frozen mid-reach for their weapons. One word from him, and the girl would be disarmed. One wrong word, and she might pull the trigger. Matteo's tattooed hands rose slowly, palms out. The scars cutting across his knuckles, reminders of every choice that had led him here, seemed to burn under her gaze. "Put the gun down, Piccola," he said quietly, using the Italian endearment before he could stop himself. "Don't call me that." Ashley's finger moved closer to the trigger. "My mom used to say you called her that, before you abandoned us." The name hit him like a blade between the ribs. Jenny. Jenny Sullivan with her shy smile and artist's hands, who'd served drinks in his club 6 nights a week and somehow made the darkness around him feel less absolute. Jenny, who'd gotten pregnant and begged him to let her go, to let her raise their... No, he'd done the DNA test in secret after that night 9 years ago. Ashley wasn't his, but he'd saved them both anyway, pulling them from the flames of a deal gone wrong, carrying Jenny and her infant daughter through smoke and gunfire to safety. And then he'd disappeared, thinking distance would protect them from the violence that followed him like a shadow. "Where's your mother?" Matteo asked, though the ice forming in his gut already knew. Ashley's face crumpled for just a second before hardening again. "Detective Corleone has her. He said if I didn't bring him the ledger from your safe, he'd kill her tonight." "The ledger?" "Of course." James Corleone, dirty cop turned untouchable, running a foster care trafficking ring behind his badge. Matteo had been building a case against him for months, collecting evidence that would burn Corleone's empire to ash. "So I came to get it." Ashley's voice broke. "But I found you instead, and Mom told me. She told me if I was ever in real danger, you were the only person strong enough to keep me alive. So tell me." Her eyes, Jenny's eyes, locked onto his. "Why did you save us back then if you were just going to let us disappear?" Outside, the rumble of engines, multiple vehicles. Matteo didn't need to look to know Corleone's men had surrounded the property. The girl had been followed. Or worse, she was bait. Every instinct screamed at Matteo to take the gun, lock Ashley in the panic room, and paint his driveway red with Corleone's blood. But something in her desperate gaze, in the way she stood despite her terror, stopped him. She deserved the truth. "Because your mother once saved me from myself," Matteo said quietly, "and I failed both of you by walking away." Ashley's hands shook now. "Then save her. Please. He's going to kill her at midnight if I don't bring the ledger. That's 3 hours from now." 3 hours. Matteo's mind raced through scenarios, angles, leverage points. Corleone wanted the ledger because it contained evidence of every dirty cop, judge, and politician in his pocket. With that destroyed, he'd be untouchable. But if Matteo gave it up, Jenny was dead anyway. Corleone never left witnesses. "Give me the gun," Matteo said. "Why should I trust you?" The chandelier light caught the desperate hope fighting with rage in her young face, and Matteo saw it clearly. This child had already lost everything she'd walked into the monster's lair, not because she was brave, but because she had no other choice. "Because," Matteo said, lowering his hands and stepping closer to the barrel pressed against his chest, This time I won't walk away. Will Matteo save Jenny before midnight strikes? What happened 9 years ago that binds them all together? Drop a comment below with your theories. I love reading them. And seriously, hit that subscribe button because this story is about to get wild. Ashley lowered the gun with shaking hands, and Matteo caught it before it clattered to the marble floor. He ejected the magazine with practiced efficiency, cleared the chamber, and handed the weapon to Vincent LeBlanc, his head of security. "Sir, we have 8 vehicles outside," Vincent said, his French accent clipped with tension. "Corleone brought half the precinct." "Let them wait." Matteo turned back to Ashley. "When did you last eat?" The question clearly caught her off guard. Yesterday morning, I think." "Vincent, get her food, and call Natalie." Matteo watched his security chief disappear into the kitchen, then gestured toward the sitting room. "Come, we need to talk, and you're going to tell me everything." Ashley followed, her green dress rumpled and dirty at the hem. As they entered the room lined with leather-bound books and dark mahogany, Matteo noticed how she scanned every exit, every shadow survival instincts honed too young. He recognized them because he'd learned them the same way. "Sit," he said, softer this time. She perched on the edge of an armchair, looking impossibly small. Matteo poured water from a crystal decanter and placed it in front of her. She grabbed it with both hands and drank like someone who'd been running for days, which, he suspected, she had been. "How long has Corleone had your mother?" Matteo asked, settling into the chair across from her. 4 days. Ashley set down the glass. "He came to our apartment with a warrant, said Mom was under investigation for embezzlement, but she doesn't even work at a bank anymore. She's a school teacher. He took her anyway and put me in temporary custody with his sister." "His sister?" "Margaret Corleone. She runs a foster home downtown." Ashley's voice hardened. "Except it's not really a foster home. The kids there, they disappear. I heard Margaret on the phone talking about shipments and buyers. I knew I had to get out." Matteo's jaw tightened. He'd suspected Corleone's operation went deeper than corrupt arrests, but using his own sister as a front for trafficking children? The man needed to die slowly. "So you escaped and came here," Matteo said. "Mom made me memorize your address years ago. She said if anything ever happened to her, you were the only person who could protect me." Ashley's eyes welled up. "She never told me why, just that you saved us once, and you'd do it again if I needed you." The door opened, and Natalie Strode swept in carrying a tray of sandwiches and fruit. Matteo's attorney and closest confidant set the food down with a pointed look. "A child, Matteo?" Natalie's voice carried layers of meaning. "With a police brigade outside?" "Jenny Sullivan's daughter." Natalie froze mid-motion. When she turned, her sharp features had softened with something that might have been sympathy. Oh God. Is Jenny—" "Corleone has her." Matteo watched Ashley devour a sandwich with desperate hunger. "He's using her as leverage for the ledger." "The ledger we've spent 8 months compiling? The one that puts away half the city's power structure?" Natalie sat down heavily. "He's getting bold." "He's getting desperate," Matteo corrected. "My sources say the FBI is closing in on his trafficking ring. He needs that evidence gone before they connect the dots." Ashley swallowed her food and looked between them. "You're not cops. Mom said you were something else." "Your mother was being kind," Matteo said. "I run nightclubs, restaurants, real estate, but the world I move in isn't always legal, and the people I deal with—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Let's just say Detective Corleone and I have different definitions of justice." "So you're a criminal?" Ashley said it matter-of-factly, without judgment. "Yes." "Good." She reached for another sandwich. "Because Mom needs a criminal right now. The law isn't helping her." Natalie made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "She's definitely Jenny's daughter." "Tell me about 9 years ago," Ashley said suddenly. What happened the night you saved us?" Matteo leaned back, the memories flooding in whether he wanted them or not. Jenny, 7 months pregnant, working her last shift at his club before leaving for good. The rival syndicate that had chosen that night to send a message by firebombing the building. The chaos, the screaming, the flames crawling up the walls. "Your mother was trapped on the 2nd floor," Matteo said quietly. "The stairwell had collapsed. I went back for her because—" He stopped, the truth lodging in his throat like broken glass. "Because you loved her," Ashley finished. Matteo didn't deny it. "She was supposed to leave the city that night, start over somewhere safe. But fate had other plans." "You carried us both out," Ashley said, as if reciting a story she'd been told many times. "Through the fire and the shooting, Mom said you got hurt protecting us." The burn scars on his left arm, hidden beneath his tailored shirt, seemed to ache at the memory. "I did what anyone would do." "No." Ashley's voice carried absolute certainty. "Mom said you did what heroes do, even the ones who think they're monsters." The words hit Matteo harder than he expected. He'd spent 9 years convincing himself that walking away had been the heroic choice, that keeping his darkness away from Jenny and her daughter was the greatest gift he could give them. But maybe he'd just been a coward. "Your mother saw something in me I never saw in myself," Matteo said finally, "and I repaid her by disappearing." "Then make it right." Ashley met his eyes with that same fierce determination she'd shown holding the gun. "Save her. Please." Before Matteo could respond, Vincent appeared in the doorway, his phone pressed to his ear and his face grim. "Sir, we have a problem. Corleone just sent a video." "What's in the video that changes everything? Share your predictions in the comments. I want to hear what you think happens next." Vincent turned the phone screen toward Matteo. The video played, and the room went cold. Jenny Sullivan knelt in what looked like an abandoned warehouse, her hands zip-tied behind her back, her face bruised and swollen. Blood trickled from a cut above her eye, but even beaten, even terrified, she held her head high. Behind her stood James Corleone, his detective's badge glinting under harsh fluorescent lights. He smiled at the camera like a man who'd already won. "Matteo Ripley," Corleone's voice crackled through the phone speaker. "I believe you have something that belongs to me, and I have something you thought you'd buried in the past." Ashley gasped beside Matteo. "Mom!" "Shh," Natalie whispered, pulling the girl close. On screen, Corleone grabbed a fistful of Jenny's hair and yanked her head back. She didn't scream, didn't beg. Her eyes stared directly into the camera with a message Matteo understood immediately. Don't give him anything. "The ledger," Corleone said. "You have 2 hours now. Midnight deadline still stands. Bring it to Pier 17, Warehouse 3. Come alone, or she dies. Bring anyone with you, she dies. Call the real cops. She dies." He leaned down, his mouth near Jenny's ear, but his eyes on the camera. "And Matteo? I know you're thinking you can outmaneuver me. You can't, because I know what you've spent 9 years trying to hide." Matteo's blood turned to ice. Corleone smiled wider. "You see, I've done my research. That fire 9 years ago? I investigated it, and I found something interesting in the hospital records from that night." He pulled out a folded paper from his jacket. "DNA results from the premature infant born in the ambulance, the one Jenny insisted had no father on record." No, this couldn't be happening." "Turns out someone ran a paternity test anyway," Corleone continued. "Standard procedure for abandoned newborns, they said. And guess whose DNA was in the system from an old arrest?" Ashley looked up at Matteo, confusion and dawning realization warring on her face. "That's right," Corleone said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. "You didn't just save them, Ripley. You saved your own daughter, and then you abandoned her." The video ended. Silence crashed through the room like a physical force. Matteo couldn't move, couldn't breathe. 9 years. 9 years of telling himself he'd done the right thing by walking away. 9 years of believing Ashley wasn't his, that he had no right to be in their lives. "Is it true?" Ashley's voice was barely a whisper. Matteo turned to look at her, really look at her. The shape of her eyes, the stubborn set of her jaw, the way she'd stood in his foyer with a gun, refusing to back down even when she was terrified. God, she was his. "I didn't know," he said hoarsely. "Ashley, I swear I didn't know." "But Mom knew." Tears streamed down Ashley's face now. "She knew, and she never told you. Why wouldn't she tell you?" Because Jenny had loved him enough to set him free. Because she'd seen the darkness in his world and wanted better for their daughter. Because she'd known that if Matteo had learned the truth, he would have pulled them both into the violence that followed him everywhere. She'd protected Ashley by lying, and Matteo had been too much of a coward to question it. "Your mother was trying to save you," Matteo said quietly. "From me. From this life." "Well, it didn't work." Ashley's voice cracked with anger and pain. "Because now she's going to die, and I'm here with the father who didn't want me." The words struck like bullets. Matteo dropped to one knee in front of her, bringing himself to her eye level. "I didn't know I had you, but I swear on everything I am. I will get your mother back. Our daughter will not lose her today." "Sir," Vincent interrupted carefully, "we need a decision. 2 hours isn't enough time to mount a proper assault on Pier 17. Natalie stood, her legal mind already racing through scenarios. "If you give him the ledger, he kills you both. He can't leave witnesses. But if you don't show up—" "He kills Jenny immediately," Matteo finished. He stood, his mind shifting into the cold, calculated mode that had kept him alive for 2 decades. "We need leverage. Something Corleone wants more than that ledger." "What could be worth more than evidence that destroys his entire operation?" Natalie asked. Matteo looked at Ashley, and something clicked into place. His sister, Margaret, she's the linchpin of the trafficking ring. Without her, the whole foster care pipeline collapses. "You want to kidnap a woman who runs a children's home?" Natalie's eyebrows shot up. "I want to rescue the children she's about to sell and take her into custody." Matteo pulled out his phone. "Vincent, get the team. We're hitting that facility in 30 minutes, Natalie. Call our FBI contact, Agent Torres. Tell her it's time to move on Corleone's trafficking operation." "And what about the exchange at Pier 17? Vincent asked. Matteo looked at his daughter, and felt something he'd thought long dead roar to life inside him. The protective fury of a father who'd just discovered what he had to lose. "I'm going," he said, "with a copy of the ledger and enough firepower to level that warehouse if I have to." "They'll kill you," Natalie said flatly. "They'll try." Matteo's smile was cold and sharp. "But they're about to learn what happens when you threaten a Ripley's family." Ashley grabbed his hand, her fingers small but strong. "I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not." "She's my mother, and you're my—" Her voice broke. "You're my dad, so we save her together, or I'll follow you anyway." Matteo saw Jenny in every stubborn line of her face, and he knew, with absolute certainty, that this 9-year-old girl had just changed everything. "Together," he agreed. "The rescue mission begins. What do you think Matteo's plan is? Drop your theories below, and if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time." This story is about to explode. The black SUVs moved through the city like sharks cutting through dark water. Matteo sat in the lead vehicle with Ashley beside him, Vincent at the wheel, and 4 armed men in the seats behind them. Natalie followed in the second vehicle with the legal team and FBI agent Torres on speakerphone. "Margaret Corleone's facility is registered as a private foster home." Torres's voice crackled through the speaker. "We've suspected trafficking for months, but couldn't get a warrant. If you're going in, Ripley, make it count, and make it legal enough that I can use what you find." "Legal enough is my specialty," Matteo said dryly. Ashley stared out the window, her reflection ghostly in the glass. She hadn't spoken since they'd left the mansion 20 minutes ago. Matteo knew that silence. It was the same one he'd worn at her age, processing trauma that no child should have to carry. "You don't have to come inside," he said quietly. "You can wait in the car." "I told you. I know what you told me." Matteo turned to face her. "But Ashley, what we're about to do, you're going to see things, hard things, children who've been hurt, and I need to know you can handle it." She finally looked at him, and the steel in her eyes made his chest tighten. "I've been handling things alone for 4 days while my mom was kidnapped. I think I can handle this." Vincent caught Matteo's eye in the rearview mirror and gave a slight nod. The girl was tough. Like her mother. Like him. "When we get inside," Matteo said, "you stay between me and Vincent at all times. You see something wrong, you tell me. You get scared, you tell me, understood?" "Understood." Ashley paused. "Can I ask you something? Anything?" "Did you love my mom?" The question hung in the air between them. Matteo looked out at the city lights blurring past and let himself remember. 9 years ago, Jenny Sullivan had walked into his club wearing a sundress and carrying a resume that listed exactly 0 experience in nightclub service. She'd looked so out of place among the designer suits and calculated danger that Matteo almost sent her away. "I need a job," she'd said simply. "And I've heard you pay well and don't ask questions." "What are you running from?" he'd asked. "A life that was killing me slowly." She'd met his eyes without flinching. "I figure working for someone dangerous is safer than staying with someone who pretends to be safe." He'd hired her on the spot. For 6 months, Jenny had served drinks and asked for nothing. She'd learned when to joke with the regulars and when to disappear into the background. She'd navigated his world with a grace that shouldn't have been possible for someone so inherently good. And Matteo had fallen for her like a man falling off a cliff. Inevitable, and terrifying, and impossible to stop. "You deserve better than this," he'd told her one night after closing, when it was just them and the ghost of what they both wanted. "Better than what?" She'd touched his face, her fingers gentle on his scars. "Better than someone who sees me? Who doesn't try to own me or fix me or make me into something I'm not? Better than a criminal? You're not a criminal, Matteo. You're a man doing criminal things. There's a difference." She'd smiled sadly. "But you're right. I can't stay in your world because I'm pregnant." The words had shattered something between them. She wouldn't tell him who the father was. Some brief relationship before she'd come to the city. She'd said Matteo hadn't believed her. But he'd let her go anyway. Because loving someone meant wanting them safe, even if it destroyed you. 3 months later, the fire had brought her back into his life for one terrible night. And then she'd vanished again, taking Ashley with her. "Yes," Matteo said finally, pulling himself back to the present. "I loved your mother more than I knew how to say, and that's why I let her go." Ashley absorbed this quietly. "She kept a photo of you, in her jewelry box. I found it when I was 7 and asked who you were. She said you were a guardian angel who only appeared when she needed you most." The description made Matteo's throat tight. "I was never anyone's angel." "Maybe not anyone else's," Ashley said, "but you were hers." The SUV pulled up to a residential street lined with modest houses. Margaret Corleone's foster home looked like any other. Neat lawn, painted shutters, a swing set in the backyard. But Matteo saw the bars on the second-floor windows, the heavy-duty locks on the doors, the security camera hidden in the porch light. This was a prison dressed as a home. 3 minutes, Vincent said, checking his watch. "Natalie's team is cutting the phone lines now. Agent Torres is positioned 2 blocks away. We go in, secure the children, find Margaret, and get out before Corleone gets wind of it." Matteo pulled a Kevlar vest over Ashley's green dress and fastened it snug. "Remember what I said. Stay close." They moved in synchronized silence, Vincent's team taking the back entrance while Matteo approached the front with Ashley and 2 guards. He didn't knock. The door lock yielded to Vincent's electronic override in seconds. Inside, the house was eerily quiet. A TV played in the living room, but no one watched it. The smell of disinfectant and fear hung heavy in the air. Then Matteo heard it, a child crying upstairs. He took the stairs 2 at a time, Ashley right behind him despite his gesture for her to wait. The second-floor hallway stretched before them with 6 doors, all closed, all locked from the outside. "This is wrong," Ashley whispered. "Why would you lock kids in their rooms?" Because they weren't kids to Margaret Corleone. They were inventory. Matteo opened the first door and found 3 children huddled together on a single mattress. 2 boys and a girl, none older than 6. They stared at him with hollow eyes that had seen too much. "It's okay," Matteo said softly, crouching down. "We're here to help. You're safe now." Behind them, Vincent's voice crackled through the radio. "Boss, we found Margaret. She's in the basement with... Christ, there's a shipping manifest 23 children scheduled for relocation tomorrow night. 23 lives about to be destroyed." Matteo felt Ashley's hand slip into his, and when he looked down, she was crying silently. Not from fear, from fury. "We're saving them," she said. It wasn't a question. "All of them." "All of them," Matteo confirmed. The sound of sirens in the distance meant Agent Torres was moving in. Good. But as Matteo helped the frightened children downstairs, his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "I know what you're doing, Ripley. Every child you save costs Jenny another finger." Tick-tock. 1 hour left. Attached was a photo of Jenny's hand, her ring finger now wrapped in bloody gauze. Ashley saw the screen and went pale. Matteo stared at the photo of Jenny's mutilated hand, his vision tunneling to a single point of white-hot rage. Behind him, FBI agents swarmed through Margaret Corleone's house, pulling 23 terrified children from locked rooms and documenting evidence that would bury the trafficking ring forever. But none of it mattered if Jenny bled out in that warehouse. "We need to move," Vincent said urgently. "Pier 17 is 30 minutes away, and we're down to 58 minutes until midnight." Ashley gripped Matteo's arm. "He's hurting her because of us. Because we're here instead of getting the ledger." "No." Matteo forced himself to think past the fury. "He's hurting her because he's losing control. We just destroyed half his operation. He's desperate." Agent Torres approached, her badge clipped to her belt and her weapon drawn. "Matteo, we've got Margaret in custody. She's already talking, trying to cut a deal. Says she'll give us everything on James if we offer immunity." "Tell her to go to hell," Matteo said flatly. "That's not how this works." "Torres, that woman sold children. I don't care what information she has. She doesn't get to walk away clean." Matteo's phone buzzed again. Another message. "Your FBI friends can't help Jenny. Neither can your money or your guns. But I'll make you a deal, Ripley. The real ledger, not a copy. Plus you, and Jenny lives. You have my word as a cop." "The word of a cop who tortures women," Vincent muttered, reading over Matteo's shoulder. Ashley's face had gone pale. "What does he mean? The real ledger? Did you make a copy?" Matteo had. Of course he had. The original ledger sat in a climate-controlled safe, 3 levels below his mansion, encrypted and backed up to servers in 5 countries. The copy he'd planned to bring to Pier 17 was good. Good enough to fool most people. But apparently not good enough to fool James Corleone. "He knows," Natalie said, arriving with her phone pressed to her ear. "I just got a call from our data security team. Someone tried to breach the mansion's network 15 minutes ago. They failed, but they got far enough to see the backup timestamps. Corleone knows you have copies." "How?" Matteo demanded. "That system is military grade." "Maybe you have a leak," Torres suggested carefully. The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Matteo looked at Vincent, his most trusted man for 8 years. At Natalie, who'd stood beside him through 3 federal investigations, at the security team who'd sworn blood oaths. Someone in his inner circle was talking to Corleone. Boss, Vincent said quietly, reading Matteo's expression. You can't seriously think— I don't know what to think anymore. Matteo pulled Ashley closer to his side, his protective instincts screaming. But we're running out of time to figure it out. His phone rang. Not a text this time. A call from the same unknown number. Matteo answered on speaker. Matteo Ripley. Corleone's smooth voice filled the space between them. How's the rescue mission going? Feeling like a hero yet? Let me talk to Jenny. Of course, I'm not unreasonable. Rustling sounds, then Jenny's voice, weak but steady. Matteo, don't— A sharp crack, like a hand hitting flesh. Jenny's gasp of pain made Ashley flinch. That's enough, Corleone said pleasantly. Jenny wanted to tell you not to come, not to trade yourself for her. Isn't that sweet? She still thinks she's protecting you after all these years. What do you want, Corleone? I already told you. The real Ledger and you at Pier 17 in— A pause. 52 minutes. But there's something else you should know. Something Jenny's been keeping from everyone, including you. Matteo's grip tightened on the phone. What are you talking about? The fire 9 years ago? The one that brought you and Jenny together for that dramatic rescue? Corleone laughed. It wasn't random gang violence, Ripley. It was a hit. On you, and Jenny knew about it beforehand. The world tilted sideways. That's a lie, Matteo said, but his voice sounded hollow even to himself. Is it? Ask yourself why Jenny was working late that night when she was 7 months pregnant. Why she insisted on being at the club when her doctor had ordered bed rest. Why she was on the 2nd floor, right outside your office, when the fire started. Ashley looked up at Matteo with confused, frightened eyes. What's he saying? Jenny was an informant, Corleone continued, his tone almost conversational. Working for my predecessor, Detective Holland. He'd promised her immunity for her ex-boyfriend's crimes if she got close to you, gathered evidence. But then she went and fell in love with you. Complicated things. You're lying, Matteo repeated. But memories were flooding back now. The way Jenny had asked innocent questions about his business, her curiosity about his meetings, his associates, the small notebook she'd kept, claiming it was for poetry. God, had it all been surveillance? Holland ordered the hit when Jenny stopped reporting in, Corleone said. Thought she'd flipped, become loyal to you instead of the law. The fire was meant to kill you both. Eliminate a problem and a compromised informant in one shot, but you saved her anyway. Saved your own daughter without even knowing she was yours. Poetic, isn't it? Matteo's hand shook. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to understand what you're dying for. Corleone's voice hardened. Jenny Sullivan used you, lied to you, and put you in the crosshairs of a police assassination, and you're still going to trade your life for hers. That's not love, Ripley. That's pathetic. The call ended. Silence crashed through the room. Torres looked uncomfortable. Vincent's expression was carefully neutral. Natalie just looked sad. Matteo, she said softly. Even if it's true, and that's a big if, it was 9 years ago. People change. Jenny had your daughter. She kept you away to protect Ashley, not to hurt you. But Ashley was staring at Matteo with dawning horror. Is that why she never told you about me? Because she felt guilty? Matteo couldn't answer. His mind was reeling through 9 years of memories, re-examining every moment with Jenny through this new, poisonous lens. Had any of it been real? When she'd touched his face and called him good, had she been manipulating him? When she'd cried in his arms after the fire, had those been tears of relief at surviving, or guilt for setting him up to die? It doesn't matter, he said finally, his voice rough. Whatever she did or didn't do 9 years ago, she's in danger now. That's what matters. But it does matter, Ashley said, tears streaming down her face. Because you're going to die for someone who might have betrayed you. And then I lose both of you. Matteo knelt in front of his daughter, God, that was still so new and terrifying, and took her face in his scarred hands. Listen to me. Whatever your mother was or did, she gave me the greatest gift I never knew I needed. She gave me you, and I will burn the world down before I let Corleone take either of you from me." He stood, his decision made. "Torres, take Ashley into protective custody. Vincent, gather the team. We're going to Pier 17. "With the real ledger?" Natalie asked. Matteo smiled, and it was cold and sharp and absolutely lethal. "No, with something better." The warehouse at Pier 17 loomed against the night sky like a tomb. Matteo stood 50 yards away in the shadows, watching Corleone's men patrol the perimeter. 12 armed officers, all dirty, all on his payroll. Behind them, the Hudson River churned black and cold. 37 minutes until midnight. "This is suicide," Vincent said through the earpiece. "Even with our team positioned around the pier, those are trained cops with military-grade weapons. The moment you step inside, they can claim self-defense if things go wrong." "Things are already wrong," Matteo replied quietly. He checked the briefcase in his hand. Not the ledger, but something Corleone would want just as much. "Is Ashley secure?" "Agent Torres has her at a safe house across the river. The girl fought like hell, by the way. Said you promised to come back." "I will." "Boss." Vincent's voice carried 8 years of loyalty and friendship. "If this goes bad, it won't." But Matteo knew he was lying. Everything about this situation screamed trap. Corleone had orchestrated it perfectly. Isolate Matteo from his resources, poison his mind against Jenny, force him into a corner where the only move was sacrifice. His phone buzzed. A message from Ashley, sent before Torres had confiscated her phone. "Mom didn't betray you. I know she didn't. Please believe in her like she believed in you." "Come back to us, Dad." "Dad." The word still felt foreign and precious and terrifying. Matteo stepped out of the shadows and walked toward the warehouse entrance. Immediately, 6 rifles tracked his movement. A spotlight blazed to life, pinning him in place. "That's far enough," a voice called. Not Corleone, one of his lieutenants. "Where's the ledger?" Matteo held up the briefcase. "Right here. Where's Jenny Sullivan?" "Inside. Detective Corleone is waiting." The doors groaned open, revealing the warehouse interior. Vast, empty, and rigged with enough firepower to start a small war. Corleone stood in the center under a single hanging light, and beside him, tied to a chair, was Jenny. Matteo's breath caught. She looked worse than in the video. New bruises, dried blood, one eye swollen shut. But when she saw him, she started shaking her head violently, making desperate sounds behind the gag in her mouth. "Right on time," Corleone said, checking his watch. "I appreciate punctuality. Come closer, Ripley. Let's have a chat." Matteo walked forward, every instinct screaming danger. The doors clanged shut behind him. Around the perimeter, more of Corleone's men emerged from the shadows. 20 officers at least, all armed, all blocking every exit. He was surrounded. "The briefcase," Corleone said, extending his hand. "Let me see her first. Confirm she's alive." Corleone sighed and ripped the gag from Jenny's mouth. She gasped, then immediately spoke. "Matteo, run! This is—" Corleone backhanded her, snapping her head to the side. "Jenny," Matteo said, his voice cracking despite himself. She looked up at him with her one good eye, and what he saw there wasn't guilt or betrayal. It was love. Pure, desperate, terrified love. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything. But you have to go. He's going to kill you no matter what you give him." "I know." Matteo set the briefcase down. "That's why I didn't bring the ledger." Corleone's expression shifted. "What?" "I brought something better." Matteo opened the case, revealing not documents but a small digital recorder. "Your sister Margaret's full confession recorded 20 minutes ago before she lawyered up. Names, dates, bank accounts, shipping routes. Everything. It's already on its way to the FBI, the state attorney general, and 3 major news networks." Corleone's face went purple. "You're bluffing." Am I? Check your phone. I'm betting you have about 6 missed calls from your associates all screaming about the same thing. The detective pulled out his phone, and Matteo watched realization dawn. Watched the man understand that his empire wasn't just crumbling, it was already ash. You son of a... Corleone raised his weapon, pointing it directly at Jenny's head. Then she dies right now. Wait. Matteo stepped forward, hands raised. I have the ledger, the real one. It's in a secure location with instructions to deliver it to you if I don't check in every hour. You kill her, you kill me. You get nothing but a murder charge on top of trafficking. It was a lie. The ledger was already in FBI custody, but Corleone didn't know that. Couldn't know that. Why should I believe anything you say? Corleone demanded. Because I'm the only thing standing between you and a lifetime in federal prison. Matteo kept his voice steady. Margaret's confession is damning, but it's secondhand. The ledger is primary evidence. Account numbers, transaction records, recorded conversations. With it, you're untouchable. Without it, you're finished. Corleone's hand wavered, his mind clearly racing through calculations. Around them, his officers shifted nervously. They'd signed up for easy corruption money, not a federal case that could destroy their lives. Here's the deal, Matteo said. Let Jenny go. I stay as collateral. You get the location of the ledger, verify it's real, and then we make an exchange. You get to walk away clean, leave the country, start over. Everyone wins. Matteo, no, Jenny sobbed. Don't do this. He didn't look at her. Couldn't look at her without losing his resolve. Do we have a deal, Corleone? The detective lowered his weapon slightly. What's to stop you from just having me killed after Jenny leaves? My daughter. The words came out raw. Ashley, you hurt Jenny. I have nothing left to lose. But if Jenny lives, if she's there for our daughter, then I have everything to lose. That's your insurance. Corleone studied him for a long moment, then smiled coldly. You really do love her, even after knowing she was an informant, even after she lied to you for years. That's almost touching. Was she? Matteo asked quietly. An informant? Does it matter now? It matters to me. Jenny lifted her head, and despite everything, the pain, the fear, the blood, her voice came out strong. Yes. At first, I was. Detective Holland threatened to put me in prison for my ex-boyfriend's crimes unless I helped them build a case against you. So I took the job at your club and reported back everything I saw. The admission hit like a physical blow, but Matteo forced himself to listen. But then I got to know you, Jenny continued, tears streaming down her battered face. The real you. The man who protected his employees, who paid for their kids' medical bills, who treated everyone with dignity even when he was breaking the law, and I fell in love with you. When I found out I was pregnant, I stopped reporting. I told Holland I was done. That's why he ordered the hit, to eliminate both of us. Touching story, Corleone interrupted. But it doesn't change the deal. Jenny leaves, you stay, I get the ledger location. Matteo looked at Jenny one last time, memorized her face despite the bruises, let himself believe that the love he saw there was real, even if everything else had been lies. Vincent, he said into his hidden mic, execute Plan B. Boss, you can't do it. Outside, explosions rocked the pier. Not real explosives, flashbangs and smoke grenades creating chaos. Corleone's men rushed towards the doors, shouting into radios. In that moment of confusion, Matteo lunged forward toward Jenny. He made it 3 steps before the gunshot echoed through the warehouse. Pain exploded in his shoulder, spinning him around. He hit the concrete hard, blood spreading beneath him. Through blurring vision, he saw Corleone standing over him, weapon raised. You really thought that would work? Corleone laughed. I knew you'd try something. And now Jenny gets to watch you die before I kill her too. Jenny screamed, thrashing against her bonds. Outside, the chaos intensified. Real gunfire now mixing with the diversions. Matteo tried to move, but his body wouldn't respond. Blood loss. Shock. The warehouse ceiling swam above him. This wasn't how it was supposed to end. "Ashley," he whispered, thinking of his daughter. "I'm sorry." Corleone aimed the weapon at Matteo's head. "Any last words?" Through the haze of pain, Matteo smiled. "You should have checked the briefcase more carefully." Corleone frowned, then turned back to look at the case. The recorder was still running, its red light blinking steadily. Recording everything, including Corleone's confession about the trafficking ring, about ordering the hit 9 years ago, about his plans to commit double murder. "That's live streaming," Matteo said, his voice fading. "To Agent Torres, you just convicted yourself." The warehouse doors exploded inward. FBI agents poured through, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Corleone's officers dropped their guns, hands raised. But Corleone himself didn't move. He stared at Matteo with pure hatred, then turned his weapon toward Jenny. "If I'm going down," he said, "she's coming with me." Time fractured into slow motion. Corleone's finger tightened on the trigger, the barrel aimed at Jenny's heart. FBI agents sprinted across the warehouse floor, shouting, but they were too far away. Matteo tried to rise, to throw himself between the bullet and the woman he loved, but his wounded body betrayed him. This was it. The moment he'd lose everything. Then a small figure burst through the FBI line, moving faster than anyone expected. Ashley. She'd somehow escaped Torres's custody, somehow made it past the perimeter, and now she threw herself in front of her mother's chair with her arms spread wide. "No!" Matteo's scream tore through the warehouse. Corleone hesitated, his weapon now pointed at a 9-year-old child. Even for him, even cornered and desperate, this was a line. "Ashley, run!" Jenny sobbed. "Please, baby, run!" But Ashley didn't move. She stared up at Corleone with the same fearless determination she'd shown when she'd pointed a gun at Matteo in his foyer. "You're not going to shoot me," she said, her voice shaking but strong, "because then you're not just a dirty cop. You're a child killer, and even in prison, there's a code you'll die screaming." "Kid, move," Corleone growled, but uncertainty crept into his voice. "No." Ashley took a step closer to him, putting herself even more directly in the line of fire. "You wanted leverage? Here I am. Matteo Ripley's daughter. The one thing he actually cares about more than revenge or justice or anything else. So here's a better deal. You take me hostage, use me to negotiate your way out of here, let my mom go, let Matteo get medical help, and you walk out alive." "Ashley, don't!" Matteo gasped, trying to push himself up. Blood poured from his shoulder, his vision tunneling. "Don't you dare." "It's okay, Dad." She looked back at him, and the trust in her eyes broke something in his chest. "You taught me what heroes do, even the ones who think they're monsters." Corleone's tactical mind was clearly working. A child hostage changed everything. The FBI wouldn't risk a shootout with a 9-year-old in the crossfire. He could leverage this. "All right," he said slowly, lowering the weapon from Jenny and grabbing Ashley's arm. "New deal. I walk out of here with the girl. Once I'm clear, I'll let her go." "Liar!" Jenny spat. "You'll kill her the second you're safe." "Then I guess we're at an impasse." Corleone pulled Ashley against him, using her small body as a shield. Unless... Vincent's shot came from somewhere in the rafters, a perfect marksman's shot that should have taken Corleone in the head. But at the last second, the detective moved, and the bullet grazed his ear instead, drawing blood but not stopping him. Corleone fired wildly upward, then pressed his weapon to Ashley's temple. "Nobody move! The next person who tries that, the kid dies!" FBI agents froze. Vincent stayed hidden in the rafters. Matteo felt consciousness slipping, the blood loss dragging him under. This couldn't be happening. He'd orchestrated everything perfectly. The rescue, the confession, the FBI raid. But none of it mattered if Ashley died in front of him. "James." A new voice cut through the chaos. Agent Torres stepped forward, her weapon holstered, her hands raised. "Let me talk to you, cop to cop." "There's nothing to talk about," Corleone snarled. "I'm walking out that door with the girl, and anyone who tries to stop me becomes a cop killer." "I know about Detective Holland," Torres said calmly. "About the hit he ordered 9 years ago. About how you took over his trafficking ring when he died. We have all of it now. Margaret's confession, the ledger, the live stream recording. But here's what you don't know." Corleone paused. "What?" "Holland didn't die of a heart attack like the official report said. He was murdered, and I can prove who did it." Torres took a step closer. "Give me the girl, turn yourself in, and I'll make sure that murder charge disappears. You'll do time for trafficking, corruption, assault, but not murder one that's 30 years instead of life without parole." "Why would you do that?" Corleone demanded suspiciously. "Because I'm a cop, too, and I believe in deals that save lives." Torres glanced at Ashley. "That little girl's life is worth more than my career or the perfect conviction. Let her go, James. End this like a professional." For a long moment, nobody breathed. Matteo watched through dimming vision as Corleone's grip on Ashley wavered. The detective's mind was clearly racing, calculating odds, weighing options, looking for the trap. Then Jenny spoke, her voice soft but clear. "James, I was an informant once. I lied to someone I loved because I thought I was doing the right thing, and it destroyed everything. Don't make the same mistake. That child is innocent. Let her go." Something in Jenny's words, the raw honesty, the shared understanding of impossible choices, seemed to reach him. Corleone looked down at Ashley, at this 9-year-old girl who'd offered herself as a trade for her parents' lives, and his expression shifted. "Your parents really love you, kid," he said quietly. "I know," Ashley replied. "That's why you're going to let me go. Because somewhere under all this, you understand what that means." Corleone laughed, a harsh, broken sound. Then, slowly, he released Ashley and lowered his weapon. "I want that deal in writing, Torres. Full immunity on the Holland murder." "Done." Ashley ran to Jenny first, her small hands frantically working at the ropes binding her mother to the chair. FBI agents swarmed Corleone, cuffing him, reading his rights. Matteo watched it all through a haze of pain and relief and love so overwhelming it hurt worse than the bullet wound. Jenny got free and rushed to his side, dropping to her knees beside him. "Matteo, stay with me. Help is coming." "Ashley," he managed. "Is she—" "I'm right here, Dad." His daughter took his hand, her grip fierce and strong. "You're going to be okay. We all are." Paramedics rushed in with a stretcher. As they lifted Matteo, he held on to both Jenny and Ashley, refusing to let go even as unconsciousness pulled at him. "Tell me one thing," he whispered to Jenny. "When you said you loved me, was any of it real?" Jenny's tears fell on his face. "All of it. From the moment you asked me what I was running from and actually listened to the answer. Every second, Matteo, I swear." "Then I forgive you," he breathed. "For all of it." As they carried him toward the ambulance, Ashley ran alongside the stretcher, still holding his hand. "You're going to keep your promise, right? You're coming back?" Matteo smiled, despite the pain. "Always. Heroes don't abandon their families." "Even the ones who think they're monsters?" "Especially those ones." "He's alive!" "But what happens next? The climax is coming and you do not want to miss it. Comment below and let me know what you think will happen. And if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? 3 days later, Matteo woke in a private hospital room to find Ashley asleep in the chair beside his bed, her head resting on Jenny's shoulder. Jenny's eyes were open, watching him, and when their gazes met, she smiled through fresh tears. "Hey," she whispered, careful not to wake their daughter. "Hey yourself." Matteo's voice was rough from disuse. His shoulder throbbed beneath layers of bandages, but he was alive? They all were. "How long was I out?" 18 hours of surgery, then 2.5 days of medically induced coma. The bullet nicked your subclavian artery. They said—" Her voice broke. "They said you almost didn't make it." Matteo shifted carefully, testing his body's limits. Everything hurt, but pain meant he was breathing. Corleone? In federal custody, Agent Torres kept her word about the murder charge. He got 30 years with a cooperation agreement. Margaret's already pled guilty to trafficking. The whole ring is collapsing. Jenny reached for his hand, hesitant, as if unsure she had the right to touch him. Matteo, about what I told you in the warehouse. We'll talk about it, he said gently. But not here. Not now. Right now, I just need to know you're both safe. Ashley stirred, her eyes opening slowly. When she saw Matteo awake, she launched herself forward, wrapping her arms around his neck with desperate relief. You promised you'd come back. And I keep my promises. Matteo held her tight with his good arm, breathing in the scent of her hair, some combination of hospital soap and Jenny's shampoo. His daughter, his family. How are the other children? From Margaret's house? Agent Torres says they're placing them with verified foster families, real ones this time, and some have relatives who can take them. Ashley pulled back to look at him seriously. Vincent visits every day. He says your businesses are running smoothly, and Natalie has 17 lawyers making sure Corleone can never touch us again. Vincent's a good man. Matteo glanced at Jenny. Though we still have the issue of the leak. Someone in my organization was feeding Corleone information. Jenny's expression shifted, guilt mixing with something that looked like resolve. About that, I need to tell you something. Before she could continue, the hospital room door opened. Vincent entered, followed by Agent Torres and, unexpectedly, Natalie carrying a laptop. You're awake, Vincent said with obvious relief. Good, because we need to show you something. Natalie set up the laptop on the rolling table and turned the screen toward Matteo. Video footage played, security camera footage from inside Margaret Corleone's facility, time-stamped from 5 months ago. The video showed Jenny entering through a back door late at night. She moved through the house silently, using a key to unlock the children's rooms one by one, checking on them, leaving food and bottles of water. Then she photographed documents on Margaret's desk, shipping manifests, financial records, communication logs. What is this? Matteo asked. Your leak wasn't giving information to Corleone, Torres explained. Your leak was Jenny, and she was giving information to us. She's been an FBI informant for the past 6 months. The room tilted. Matteo stared at Jenny, who wouldn't meet his eyes. After what happened 9 years ago with Holland, I swore I'd never work with law enforcement again, Jenny said quietly. But 6 months ago, Ashley came home from school and told me about her friend Sarah, a girl who'd just entered foster care with Margaret Corleone. Something about the way Ashley described Sarah's fear. It reminded me of myself, of being trapped and helpless. She finally looked at Matteo. I did research, found out Margaret's connection to you, that you were investigating her brother. So I went to the FBI and offered to help. I had access through my volunteer work at the school. I could get inside Margaret's facility in ways law enforcement couldn't. You put yourself in danger, Matteo said, his voice tight. If Corleone had discovered you. He did discover me 3 weeks ago. Jenny's hands trembled. He couldn't prove I was FBI, but he suspected I was gathering evidence. That's when he arrested me on fake charges and used me to get to you. He knew that if he threatened me, you'd come. The breach of my security system, Matteo realized. That wasn't Corleone's people. That was you, accessing my files on Margaret's operation. Torres nodded. Jenny was trying to find connections between your ledger and the trafficking ring. She thought if we could tie everything together, we could take down Corleone and protect you at the same time. Natalie pulled up another document on the laptop. She also found this, hidden in your encrypted files. It was a DNA test. Not the one from 9 years ago showing Ashley was his daughter. A different one, dated 3 months after the fire. Below it was a handwritten note in Matteo's own writing. Ashley Marie Sullivan. My daughter. Jenny doesn't know I know. Keep them safe by staying away. Matteo's chest constricted. I buried that file. How did you... I'm very good at my job, Natalie said softly. And I've known for 7 years that you were protecting them from a distance. Anonymous payments for Jenny's rent, Ashley's school tuition mysteriously covered by a scholarship, medical bills that disappeared. You never left them, Matteo. You just loved them from the shadows. Ashley looked between the adults, processing. You knew about me all this time? I suspected after the fire, Matteo admitted. When you were born premature but survived. You had my eyes, my stubbornness. I ran the DNA test and confirmed it, but your mother had asked me to let her go, to let her build a safe life away from my world. So I did. I just made sure you were both taken care of. Why didn't you tell me? Jenny asked, tears streaming freely now. Because you were right to want distance. Look what happened the moment we were pulled back into each other's lives. Violence, kidnapping, a shootout. Matteo's voice roughened with emotion. You and Ashley deserved better than a criminal for a father. That's not your choice to make, Ashley said fiercely. Mom and I get to decide if you're good enough for us, and we decided 3 days ago when you almost died protecting us. You're our family. The choice is made. Vincent cleared his throat. If this touching reunion is complete, there's one more thing. Corleone's cooperation agreement included a full debrief. He confirmed that Detective Holland's hit 9 years ago was ordered by someone higher up, someone who saw Matteo's growing influence as a threat to their own criminal operations. Who? Matteo demanded. Torres exchanged a glance with Natalie. Your former partner, Dominic Kane. He's the one who tipped Holland off about Jenny being an informant and ordered both of you killed. He wanted your territory and your connections. The name hit like a second bullet. Dominic, his friend, his brother in everything but blood, the man who'd stood beside him for 15 years. Where is he now? Matteo's voice went cold. That's the thing, Vincent said grimly. He's been operating under your umbrella this whole time. All your legitimate businesses. He's been using them to launder money for a trafficking operation even bigger than Corleone's the FB. I wants to take him down, but they need your cooperation. Matteo looked at Jenny, at Ashley, at the family he'd almost lost. Then he looked at Torres. Tell me what you need. 6 weeks later, Matteo stood in the lobby of his flagship nightclub, the same one where he'd met Jenny 9 years ago. The place had been rebuilt after the fire, but tonight it would serve a different purpose. Tonight it would be the stage for Dominic Kane's downfall. He's here, Vincent said through the earpiece. Just pulled up with his security detail. Matteo adjusted his suit jacket, careful of his healing shoulder. Beside him, Jenny squeezed his hand. She wore a simple black dress and a wire, her role in tonight's operation carefully orchestrated with the FBI. You don't have to be here, Matteo told her for the 10th time. Yes, I do. Jenny's jaw set with determination. He tried to kill us, both of us. I want to look him in the eye when he realizes he lost. The club doors opened, and Dominic Kane entered with the confidence of a man who believed he owned the world. Tall, charismatic, with silver threading through his dark hair, he looked every bit the successful businessman he pretended to be. His smile faltered when he saw Matteo standing and alive. Matteo. Dominic recovered quickly, spreading his arms. I heard about your hospital stay. Terrible business with Corleone. I'm glad to see you recovered. Are you? Matteo's voice was cold. Or are you disappointed your second attempt to kill me failed? The smile vanished. Dominic's eyes flicked to Jenny, to Vincent, to the exits. I don't know what you're talking about. Detective Holland, 9 years ago, you paid him to order the hit on this club because I refused to let you expand your trafficking operation into my territory. Matteo took a step forward. You knew Jenny was an informant and used that information to convince Holland she'd flipped to my side. You wanted us both dead. That's insane. I have the financial records, Dominic. Wire transfers from your offshore accounts to Holland's. Recorded phone calls. Corleone gave us everything in his cooperation deal. Matteo's voice hardened. Including the fact that you've been using my legitimate businesses to launder money for a trafficking ring that spans 8 states. Dominic's hand moved toward his jacket, but Vincent was faster. In seconds, 3 guns were trained on him. Vincent's, plus 2 FBI agents who'd been posing as club staff. "Don't," Agent Torres said, stepping out of the shadows with her badge displayed. "Dominic Kane, you're under arrest for human trafficking, money laundering, conspiracy to commit murder, and about 40 other charges that will put you away for life." As FBI agents swarmed forward to cuff him, Dominic's mask of civility shattered. He looked at Matteo with pure hatred. "You self-righteous hypocrite, you think you're better than me? You've done worse things than I ever dreamed of." "You're right," Matteo said calmly. "I have, but I never hurt children. I never sold innocence, and I never betrayed the people who trusted me." He leaned closer. "Enjoy prison, brother. I hear they have a special welcome for people like you." Dominic lunged, but agents hauled him back, dragging him toward the doors. His screams of rage echoed through the club until the doors closed, cutting off the sound. Silence fell. "It's over," Jenny whispered. "Not quite." Matteo turned to Torres. "We had a deal. Dominic's arrest, full cooperation with the FBI's investigation, and in exchange—" "In exchange, you walk away clean," Torres confirmed. "No charges for past activities, full immunity in writing. You're out, Matteo, officially retired from the life." Vincent clapped him on the shoulder. "End of an era, boss." "Beginning of a better one," Matteo corrected. 2 months later, Matteo sat on a porch swing, watching Ashley play in the backyard of the house he'd bought. A real house, in a quiet neighborhood with good schools and neighbors who didn't know his past. Jenny emerged with 2 cups of coffee and settled beside him. "She's happy," Jenny observed, watching their daughter attempt to teach Vincent's kids how to throw a proper punch. "I never thought we'd get here." "Neither did I." Matteo accepted the coffee, savoring the domestic simplicity of the moment. "I spent 9 years thinking I was protecting you by staying away. Turns out I was just afraid." "Of what?" "That you'd see me clearly and realize I wasn't worth loving." Jenny set down her coffee and took his face in her hands. "Matteo Ripley, I saw you clearly the night I met you. I saw a man trying so hard to be the monster everyone expected that he forgot he had a choice. And I've loved you every day since, even when I was furious at you for leaving, even when I was terrified you'd never forgive me for being an informant." "There's nothing to forgive," Matteo said softly. "You did what you had to do, both times, and you protected our daughter in ways I never could." "We protected her," Jenny corrected. "Together, even when we were apart. And now we get to do it side by side." Ashley ran over, breathless and grinning. "Dad, Vincent says you used to be the best fighter in the city. Is that true?" "Once upon a time," Matteo admitted. "Can you teach me? Not to hurt people," she added quickly, "but to protect myself, like you protected us." Matteo pulled his daughter onto his lap, marveling at how perfectly she fit there. "I'll teach you everything I know, starting with the most important lesson." "What's that?" "Real strength isn't about winning fights. It's about knowing when to walk away from them." He looked at Jenny. "And knowing when to fight for the people you love, no matter the cost." Ashley hugged him tight. "I'm glad you fought for us." "Me too, Piccola, me too." As the sun set over their new beginning, Matteo felt something he hadn't experienced in 20 years. Peace. Not the peace of an ended war, but the peace of a life, finally, truly lived. He'd been a criminal, a monster, a man who'd done terrible things in the shadows. But he was also a father, a partner, a man who'd learned that redemption wasn't about erasing the past, but about building a better future. Jenny leaned her head on his shoulder. "I love you, Matteo Ripley." "I love you, Jenny Sullivan." He kissed her temple. "Thank you for saving me all those years ago." "You saved me first," she reminded him. Ashley looked up at both of them. "You saved each other. That's what families do." And in that moment, surrounded by the 2 people who'd changed his life forever, Matteo knew she was right. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What was your favorite moment? Which twist surprised you most? And if you're not subscribed yet, please hit that button.